In a world where headlines never sleep, the line between information and manipulation is fading. It's a constant, low-level hum of anxiety, delivered directly to the palm of your hand. Every minute, every alert, every push notification, each one is a carefully crafted bid for a fraction of your attention, a resource now more valuable than oil. They are all designed to keep you watching, to keep you engaged, to keep you feeling like you might miss something vital if you look away for even a second. It's a system that encourages you to keep reacting and scrolling, caught in a digital current that's difficult to escape. The average person today consumes more information in a single day than someone in the 15th century would have in their entire lifetime. The sheer volume is staggering, the noise is constant. But is this fire hose of data making us more informed citizens? Or just more anxious, more divided, and ultimately more reactive? To understand how we got here, we have to go back to the beginning. Back to a revolutionary idea that changed everything. The 24-hour news model began as a noble, almost radical idea to inform citizens around the clock. Before this, news was a finite resource, delivered on a strict schedule. The morning paper, the evening broadcast. It had a beginning and an end. But then, the technology arrived. The proliferation of cable television and the dawn of satellite communication created a new possibility. A channel that never went off the air. The ambition followed close behind. On June 1, 1980, CNN, the cable news network, flickered to life, promising to be there until the end of the world. And in truly historic moments, this continuous coverage proved its immense value. During the attempted assassination of President Reagan in 1981, or the Gulf War a decade later, the world could watch events unfold in real time. It was a profound shift in our collective consciousness. For the first time, history wasn't something you just read about the next day. It was something you experienced, live. But this created a new, unforeseen problem. History doesn't happen on a 24-hour schedule. There are quiet days, slow weeks. What do you do when you have a massive, expensive machine built to cover breaking news, but there isn't enough news to break? The answer was simple. You fill the gaps. Speculation, punditry, and panel debates began to replace straight reporting. Minor stories were inflated to feel monumental. Drama filled the void. The need to fill 24 hours of airtime created a gravitational pull towards conflict and controversy, because conflict is compelling television. Soon, more outlets joined the fray. More channels meant more hours to fill, and more pressure to perform in the ratings. The mission subtly shifted from informing the public to capturing an audience. The race for attention had begun. Networks discovered that fear and outrage were reliable drivers of viewership. A sense of urgency, whether real or manufactured, kept eyes glued to the screen. And so, the breaking news banner, once reserved for events of national significance, became a permanent fixture. A politician's tweet, a celebrity mishap, a minor stock market fluctuation, everything became breaking. And in the process, the word breaking lost its meaning. It no longer signaled importance. It signaled a demand for your immediate focus. From our living rooms to public lobbies, the feed became inescapable. This constant stream of information, often framed with a sense of crisis, doesn't just stay on the screen. It bleeds into every conversation, shaping our moods, our anxieties, and our perception of the world. Information never rests. The cycle is relentless. But this doesn't mean we are powerless. We can choose how, when, and why it reaches us. We can reclaim our attention. Because in this new media landscape, our viewership is our vote. What we watch, what we click, and what we share directly shapes what gets made. The business model of news has always been about monetizing attention. First through newspaper sales, then through broadcast ratings, and now through clicks and engagement metrics. The medium changed. The technology evolved beyond anyone's wildest imagination, but the fundamental incentives did not. This story is about those incentives. It's about understanding the architecture of our information ecosystem so we can navigate it with intention rather than being swept away by it. The trick is simple. Make every story feel urgent. This isn't an accident. It's a design principle. In the relentless competition for our focus, urgency is the universal key. It unlocks our most primal threat detection systems, bypassing rational thought to demand immediate attention. The goal is to create a state of perpetual vigilance, a sense that something critical is always happening, and that to look away is to risk being uninformed, unprepared, or unsafe. Fear keeps eyes glued to screens. It's a powerful, primitive motivator. Our brains are hardwired to pay attention to potential dangers. The modern media environment exploits this negativity bias, understanding that a headline promising crisis will always get more clicks than one promising stability. This creates a feedback loop. The more we click on fear, the more fear we are shown. Outrage keeps the ad money flowing. While fear captures attention, outrage sustains it. It's an active, engaging emotion. It compels us to comment, to share, to argue. Each interaction is a data point, a signal to the platform that this content is valuable. This engagement is the currency of the digital age, directly monetized through advertising. The more time we spend enraged, the more ads we see, and the more revenue is generated. The economic incentive is to keep the outrage machine running at full capacity. Language is engineered to activate. Every word is chosen for maximum impact. Verbs become more aggressive. Discuss becomes clash. Question becomes slam. Nouns are loaded with peril. Situation becomes crisis. Issue becomes disaster. Adjectives are weaponized. Shocking, stunning, explosive. This is linguistic inflation, where the constant need to escalate devalues the meaning of the words themselves, requiring ever stronger language to achieve the same effect. The pace accelerates. The stakes inflate. Every development is breaking. Every disagreement is a war. This constant escalation creates a distorted perception of reality. Nuance is the first casualty, followed closely by context. In a world where everything is presented as a five-alarm fire, it becomes impossible to distinguish a genuine emergency from a manufactured one. The rhythm of urgency becomes the norm. Our nervous systems adapt to this heightened state of alert. The constant drumbeat of crisis notifications, the endless scroll of alarming headlines, it recalibrates our baseline. Calm feels unsettling. Quiet feels like ignorance. We become addicted to the stimulation, seeking out the next hit of adrenaline that a breaking news alert provides. Attention is captured, but comprehension is lost. We are consuming information at an unprecedented rate, but retaining less and less. The sheer volume and speed of the content stream prevent deep processing. We skim, we react, we move on. Context is removed. A story is stripped of its history, its complexity, its surrounding facts, all to fit the narrow frame of a push notification or a viral clip. This decontextualization makes information easier to consume and share, but it also makes it easier to misunderstand and misrepresent. We are left with fragments of information, emotional snapshots devoid of the bigger picture. Algorithms have learned what triggers us. They are not sentient, but they are ruthlessly efficient. Through trillions of data points, these systems have mapped the emotional contours of the human psyche. They know which words, images, and cadences will provoke a response. They don't know truth, only engagement. In this economy, spikes equal success. A sudden surge in clicks, shares, and comments is the ultimate validation. It signals to the system to push the content further, to amplify its reach, creating a viral cascade. The merit of the content, its accuracy, its importance, its benefit to society, is irrelevant. The only question is, did it cause a spike? One click becomes a tunnel. The algorithm, noting your interest in a high arousal topic, immediately serves you more of the same, but slightly more extreme. A concerned click on a political story can lead down a rabbit hole of increasingly partisan and inflammatory content. The system is designed to deepen your engagement, often by narrowing your perspective and reinforcing your initial emotional reaction. High arousal content wins the ranking. Joy, inspiration, and humor can create arousal. but fear and anger are more reliable and easier to provoke. As a result, the content that rises to the top of our feeds is often the most divisive, shocking, and infuriating. Nuanced, thoughtful, and moderate voices are systematically disadvantaged, drowned out by the algorithmically favored extremes. Emotion spreads faster than facts. A factual correction is often slow, detailed, and lacks the emotional punch of the original lie. An outrageous claim, however, travels at the speed of a share, propelled by our immediate, unthinking reactions. By the time the truth gets its boots on, the lie has already been amplified 1,000,000 times. This amplification is automatic. There is no human editor deciding to make a conspiracy theory go viral. The system simply identifies that it is generating high levels of engagement and follows its prime directive. Give the people more of what engages them. The machine is agnostic to truth. It is an engine of amplification, and its fuel is human emotion. The system optimizes for attention, not for well-being. It doesn't care if we are informed, healthy, or connected. It only measures whether we are watching. This single-minded focus has profound consequences for our mental and social health. But we can interrupt the loop. The system's power is derived entirely from our participation. Recognizing the mechanics of manufactured urgency is the first step toward reclaiming our focus. The pause, the moment between the stimulus and our reaction, is where our power lies. Urgency bypasses our critical filters and robs us of sleep. The blue light from our screens disrupts melatonin production, while the anxiety-inducing content keeps our minds racing long after we've put the phone down. We are left tired but wired, caught in a cycle of exhaustion and stimulation. It turns colleagues into combatants. The constant exposure to divisive content primes us for conflict. We begin to see those who disagree with us not as people with different perspectives, but as enemies to be defeated. Nuanced, in-person conversations are replaced by digital skirmishes fought with memes and headlines. Our bodies react before our minds decide. A startling headline triggers the same fight-or-flight response as a physical threat. Cortisol and adrenaline flood our systems. Our heart rate increases. Our breathing becomes shallow. We are in a state of physiological stress, even when sitting perfectly still. Even quiet moments are invaded. The phantom vibration in a pocket, the compulsive need to check for updates, the lingering anxiety from an article read hours ago. The digital world doesn't stay on the screen. It bleeds into every corner of our lives, colonizing our downtime and fragmenting our presence. The ambient pressure never stops. It's in the airport lounge, the doctor's office, the restaurant. A constant, low-grade hum of crisis emanating from screens everywhere. This environmental stress creates a sense that there is no escape, that the state of emergency is the permanent condition of modern life. Muted sound, unmuted stress. We can silence the notifications, but we can't as easily silence the internal response. The feeling of urgency lingers, a psychological echo that continues to shape our mood and our choices long after we've looked away from the screen. News is no longer just about facts, it's about feelings. Breaking headlines trigger threat circuits, intermittent rewards keep us checking, arousal masquerades as importance, alertness versus attention. Choice retrains the habit, chronic exposure elevates stress. Silence is a signal too. Psychologists see news cycles like slot machines. Negativity is sticky. It's a reliable equation. Countermeasures are simple, not easy. Set windows, rotate sources, disable auto-urgency, choose depth over drama. Anxiety, outrage, and fear, the new currency of attention. We pay with time, we pay with presence, we pay with health. Boundaries by clarity. Nuance takes time. Sleep resets the filter. Attention is a muscle. When truth becomes a product, balance becomes optional. Outrage monetizes. Network identities harden. Presentation signals allegiance. Spectacle eclipses substance. Content tailored to tribes. One reality, two stories, and record profits. Division is sticky and lucrative. Audiences choose affirmation. Algorithms learn your beliefs and show you more of the same. Conflict outcompetes calm. Nuance doesn't trend. Amplified, repeated, believed. Noise persists, even uninvited. Different incentives, different outcomes. Transparency rebuilds trust. Depth demands time and courage. Dialogue can de-escalate. Clarity retains better than panic. Responsible frames still inform. We can reward restraint. We stand at a new precipice. As artificial intelligence begins to write, and even anchor, the news, a deeper question emerges, one that cuts to the very core of our shared reality. We're not just talking about automated summaries of stock market reports anymore. We're talking about fully synthetic news anchors, with lifelike expressions and algorithmically optimized vocal tones, delivering information crafted by generative AI. They don't need to sleep. They don't make verbal stumbles, and they can be produced at a scale and cost that traditional journalism simply cannot match. This technological leap forces us to ask, will truth survive automation? The threat isn't just a more efficient newsroom, it's the weaponization of this efficiency. When every face and voice can be fabricated with startling accuracy, the very concept of evidence begins to crumble. Imagine a world where a video of a world leader declaring war can be generated in minutes, indistinguishable from a real broadcast, or where audio of a CEO admitting to fraud can be faked to tank a company's stock. This isn't science fiction. It's the digital landscape we are now entering. The danger lies in its polish. AI-generated content doesn't look like a grainy conspiracy video. It arrives with the full authority of a professional production. Every fact looks polished, every graphic is crisp, and every anchor is perfectly composed. This veneer of credibility makes it incredibly difficult for the human mind to spot the deception. In this new reality, who will we trust? When our own eyes and ears can be so easily deceived, the old pillars of trust, seeing is believing, are no longer stable. In the face of this, skepticism becomes a fundamental survival skill. Not cynicism, which rejects everything, but an active questioning skepticism that demands proof. This means verification must go mainstream. It can no longer be a practice confined to newsrooms. We must all become literate in the art of digital forensics. The solution must be technological as well as human. We need transparency by default. This includes developing and adopting standards for content provenance, digital watermarks that show where an image or video originated and how it has been altered. Imagine a browser extension that instantly flags a video as AI-generated or an image as manipulated. This is the infrastructure of trust we must build. But technology alone is not a silver bullet. The most powerful tool remains our own critical thinking. Before you react, before you share, pause. Verify. Check the claim against multiple, independent, and reputable sources. Ask yourself, who is behind this information? What is their incentive? Is this designed to inform me or to inflame me? This simple act of pausing is an act of defiance against the tide of disinformation. We must teach the incentives. Understanding the business models of media, both legitimate and malicious, is crucial. When we know that outrage generates clicks and clicks generate revenue, we become more resilient to manipulation. This literacy needs to be as fundamental as reading and writing. And we must reward accountability, support the journalists and organizations that admit when they get it wrong, that issue clear corrections, and that show their work. This is the hallmark of a process dedicated to finding the truth, not just being right. This new threat from AI accelerates a problem that has been building for decades. The 24-hour news cycle was meant to keep us informed, to give us a constant window on the world. Instead, it's left many exhausted, perpetually connected, but profoundly confused. The constant stream of breaking news alerts, sensational headlines, and panel debates creates a state of manufactured urgency. It triggers our brain's fight or flight response, keeping us hooked on a cycle of anxiety and outrage. We are drowning in information while starving for wisdom. In this environment, tuning out is not ignorance. It is an act of self-preservation. It is a strategic retreat to regain clarity. It is choosing when to listen, and just as importantly, when to embrace the silence. It's about replacing the frantic, shallow consumption of headlines with deep, focused engagement on your own terms. This is a conscious choice. Set time boundaries for your news consumption. An hour in the morning perhaps, or a dedicated weekly catch-up. Turn off the endless notifications. Reclaim your attention from the algorithms designed to steal it. Choose signal over noise. Prioritize substance over spectacle. Instead of watching 5-minute cable news arguments, spend 30 minutes reading a well-researched article that provides context, history, and nuanced perspectives. Read past the frame of the immediate event to understand the larger systems at play. When you direct your attention with intention, it stops being a resource that is mined from you, and it transforms into a tool that you wield. Attention, directed, becomes wisdom. In an age of synthetic reality and infinite noise, maybe the real revolution isn't about staying more connected. It's about protecting our own minds. It's about building the discipline to pause, to verify, and to think for ourselves. It is learning when to tune out, so that when we do tune in, we do so with purpose.